Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the show. It is Sunday, November 23rd. I don't normally record on Sundays, or at least I don't normally record this show on Sundays, but there's just been so much in the news lately that I just haven't been able to get to everything with my normal recording schedule. So I figured, what the hell? I got a little time here this morning. Let's see if I can get to some of this stuff. So let me just jump right in. I don't know if I'll get to everything I have, but I'll do my best. I want to begin with the Trump assassination attempt, because the FBI has announced that they have concluded their investigation into that incident. And let me read just a little bit of this article. This is from The Hill. FBI concludes Trump's would-be assassin acted alone during rally shooting. Yeah, well, we knew this, or this is what you told us already. Let me read the first paragraph here. It's really all you need. The FBI this week concluded its probe into the first assassination attempt against President Trump during a Pennsylvania campaign rally last year, finding that the deceased suspect acted alone and without motive. Wow, quite the bang-up investigation that is. He acted alone and he had no motive. That's bullshit. Everyone has a motive to do everything, okay? He had some sort of motive. You just didn't figure out what the hell it was. Doesn't mean he didn't have one. That all being said, I don't buy this for a second. Let's take a look, shall we, at the famous photograph from that day. There it is, the fight photo. Now, let's take what the FBI is telling us and then take what we know happened on that day. So they're telling us that this guy, what the hell was his name? Let me see. I'm sure it's in the story somewhere. Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was identified as the suspect after Secret Service agents shot and killed the 20-year-old after the suspect opened fire from the roof of a building and blah, 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 blah. One rally-goer died from a gunshot wound and a bullet grazed the president's ear. Okay, so that's what we are told. Oh, sorry. What am I doing there? That's what we are told about what happened on that day. Here's what we also know. That's what we're supposed to believe. That a lone gunman who was positioned up on a roof took a shot at the president. Well, he wasn't the president then. He was a former president. And then the Secret Service shot him dead. That's, and Trump was shot in the ear. That's what we're supposed to believe. Now, what do we actually know in addition to what we're being told? Well, we know that the shot on the ear, which supposedly, right there, supposedly drew blood. Let me see if I can expand this. There we go. So there we have some blood running down the side of his face. So he was shot in the ear. What else do we know? Well, we know that this picture right here was taken literally moments after he was supposedly shot. Does this make a lot of sense to you? So this was just moments after he was shot. They could not possibly have known who the gunman was at that point, at the point this photograph was taken. They could not possibly have known if there were any other shooters anywhere in the crowd. And yet, the Secret Service, the most elite protective force on the face of the earth, right? That's what they're supposed to be. Moments after Trump was supposedly shot at, they stand him up in the middle of the stage, in the same spot where he was supposedly just shot, and allow him to face the crowd pump his fist. And what else was going on here? Well, at the same time, you see that photo, you see that flag behind him? Well, that was positioned into place right after the shooting. There is video. You can see the crane operator moving the flag into position right after the shooting. So someone supposedly fired a rifle at this man, and the crane operator then started repositioning the flag. At the same time, there is video which shows what looks to be a Secret Service agent in front of the stage. He goes on the screen from right to left, and I'm probably going to do a video about this later with the video footage. I just don't have time this morning. Anyway, so bear with me. But you could see this guest Secret Service agent. He has the earpiece in. He looks like a Secret Service agent in front of the stage, going from screen right to left. Then you see the flag being lowered into position. You see them standing up Trump, flag comes down, and then from the left to the right, that same Secret Service agent has a couple of photographers with him, leading those people into position to take this picture. That's what happened. There is video of all of that happening. The most perfectly framed assassination or supposed assassination attempt picture in freaking world history. There you go. And we're expected to believe that Donald Trump, one of the stupidest people on the face of the earth, after having been shot in the ear, not knowing what the hell's going on, right? He gets shot in the ear. Secret Service comes, jump on him for a second or two. Then he gets up and he has the wherewithal to think, you know what? I'm going to pose for a picture and I'm going to say fight, 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 and pump my hand. Fight, fight, fight. That didn't even make any sense. Fight, fight, fight what? That little rallying cry doesn't even make any fucking sense. What are we fighting? But whatever. This moron has the wherewithal, right after having been shot, to think about, how can I use this to my benefit? I need to pose for the crowd and the photographers, and what can I say? Oh, this is a good line for a campaign. Fight, fight, fight. Really? We're supposed to believe that? On top of that, it gets better. What happened to these Secret Service agents? Because here you had, if this is to be believed, we had the Secret Service allow this man to be shot. That's a pretty big fuck up right there. We had a lone gunman with a friggin' rifle take a position on a roof opposite Trump. Perfect place to take a shot from. The roof wasn't secure? I mean, this is a huge screw up, right? Assuming this happened, we can all agree this is a massive screw up, right? So what happened to these Secret Service agents? Certainly they got fired, right? Or certainly the guy in charge, whoever the agent in charge of this operation, securing this scene, certainly that person got fired, right? No. The person in charge, the agent in charge, is the man pictured on the right, in the glasses, standing right underneath the flag. That man right there. You know what happened to him after he fucked up this whole thing and allowed Donald Trump to get shot? He was promoted to the director of the Secret Service by Donald Trump. In January, right after Trump took office, Trump rewarded this man by making him director of the Secret Service. This man, who, if we are to believe what the FBI is telling us, that this was an actual assassination attempt, this man, the agent in charge, fucked this thing up so bad, allowed a sniper to set up on a roof at a perfect vantage point across from the president, or former president at the time, take a shot, shoot him, actually shoot him, Could have been killed an inch to the, an inch to the left or right, whatever the friggin', I guess it probably would have been right, but whatever. An inch, and the man would have been shot in the head and killed. And that agent who allowed all of that to happen was rewarded with being promoted to the director of the Secret Service. Does anything about any of that make any fucking sense whatsoever? Any sense? No, but we're supposed to believe that this all was true, that that's what happened. I don't buy it for a second. Just don't. And I actually heard, it was mentioned the other day, in passing, I was listening to one of the podcasts that I listen to. Big name podcast, one of the big ones out there. And they were talking about something else, but somehow this came up. And they once again took the opportunity to mock anyone who questions whether or not this was a real assassination attempt. And, they just deride people who question this as, conspiracy theorists. So, what do they believe? Those people who look down and deride anyone as conspiracy theorists who have questions about this supposed assassination attempt. Why are they so certain that it was a real assassination attempt? Are they basing this on facts? No. You know why? Because we don't have any facts. We've been told virtually nothing. Oh, and of course we forget. I forgot to mention. The ear. So he gets shot in the ear and a chunk taken out with a high-powered rifle. And yet, within what? As soon as he took the friggin' thing, he started wearing a, friggin' maxi pad on his ear. As soon as he stopped wearing that, and we got to look at that ear, there was no visible injury whatsoever. So the cartilage in his ear magically regenerated. He healed perfectly. We have been given no medical records, no explanation by a doctor of any kind of how ear cartilage magically regenerated itself so quickly. Nothing. They're covering up the medical records, and we know virtually nothing about the shooter. And so that's really all we know. And then we know for a fact all the things that I just told you because it's on frickin' video. Right? Trump being stood up in full view of the entire crowd here, there, and whatever other snipers might have been present. The Secret Service just stood him up there and allowed him to pose for a picture. You got the crane operator lowering the flag. What the hell? Seriously? And another thing that's very interesting is the crowd doesn't disperse. If you've ever seen video of other assassination attempts or other scenes where there was a crowd and there was gunshot, people get the fuck out of there. All right, there's panic. They run away. That didn't happen. If you watch the video, everybody's just standing there looking around, going, what's going on? They had no idea what's going on. It wasn't an apparent gunshot to anybody who was there. They weren't acting like it was a gunshot. They had no idea. They heard something. They're like, what the hell? Nobody ran. Nobody nothing. Very odd. Now, I'm not saying a shot wasn't fired. I don't know what the hell happened. All right? So these are the things. These are the facts that we know. And then, of course, the Secret Service leading a photographer. Who thinks of this stuff? They're supposed to be securing their protectee. That should be the only thing on their mind. Identifying where the shot came from, protecting their protectee. That's it. That should be the only thing they're focused on right at that moment. Yet we have a guy focused on leading photographers over here to get the perfect picture of the president. Or not the president, the candidate. And we have a crane operator who, instead of being worried for his own safety, gunfire, I better get the hell out of here. No, he thinks, you know what? I can see that they're setting up for a photo down there, so I'm going to help them with this photo op. I'm going to lower this flag into the perfect position. I can see where Trump is. I can see where this Secret Service guy appears to be leading these photographers. So if I line this up correctly, if I put the flag right there, oh, that'll be a beautiful shot. So I'm going to help them out. Really? We're expected to believe that that's what the crane operator was thinking? Or perhaps was this all fucking staged? And the crane operator knew what he was supposed to be doing. The photographers knew what they were supposed to be doing. Or maybe they didn't. But that Secret Service agent certainly knew what to do with the photographers. I don't know. We should at least ask questions. I'm not telling you I definitively know anything. I'm telling you I am highly suspicious and none of this makes any friggin' sense to me. I am asking questions because none of this makes sense and because we have been provided no information. We have been given no explanation about any of this shit. And so, what do these people on this podcast that I was referring to, people like that, who laugh at anyone who questions this assassination attempt, what do they believe? Well, they believe whatever the hell the FBI, the Secret Service, and Trump's people tell them. That's it. You have to just take it all at face value. You have to say, well, we've got no medical records, but that's okay. I'm going to believe Trump. The biggest liar in world friggin' history. A man who was so desperate to get reelected. Why? Because he was literally either going to be elected president or he was likely going to go to prison. That man, that desperate, there's nothing he's not willing to do. And one of the reasons they shrug it all off and go, oh, you're crazy if you think it wasn't real, is because someone got shot. That's really the only thing that they could point to. Somebody got killed. That's the only thing they point to. How can you say it was fake? Someone got killed. You think Donald Trump gives a shit about someone getting killed? Maybe that was part of the plan to make it look authentic. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying is Donald Trump doesn't give a shit if someone has to get killed, if it benefits him. Did we forget about January 6th? People got killed on that day. His own friggin' supporter got killed. He knew damn well that doing what he was doing with these people, inciting them to a violent riot. There was going to obviously be clashes with police. He knew people were armed. He knew his supporters were armed. We got that from the January 6th investigation and witness testimony. Trump wanted the magnetometers taken down. Don't make my people go through the magnetometers. I don't want them disarmed. But, sir, we know that there's weapons in the crowd. He said, yeah, but they're not here for me. They're not going to use those weapons on me. I want them armed because I'm about to send them to the Capitol to fight a battle for me. I want them armed. So Donald Trump knew on January 6th that people were likely going to be killed. We're lucky that many, many more people were not killed. Does he give a shit? No, he uses the death of Ashley Babbitt, his own supporter, to advance his own political interests. They used it for propaganda purposes. He doesn't give a damn if someone got killed anyway. So these people, like these big name podcasters, and feel free to leave a comment and take a guess at who you think I'm talking about. Could be some different people, but I bet some of you will get it. They have to accept everything that the Trump regime says about this, everything that the corrupted FBI, Kash Patel is in charge of the operation that released this final report. We're just going to take Kash Patel's word for it. Hey, that's what these big podcasters would have you believe. And they have to just dismiss all of these things that I just raised as concerns. Just ignore it. You're crazy if you question any of that. You have to just believe it and take Trump's word for it. That's their position. Well, whatever. Okay. Enough of that. So there we have. Case closed. One guy with no motive. That's who shot him. And that's all the information you're going to get. So don't ask any questions. Just believe what we say and take the advice of that podcaster. That podcast network and all the people on there, just take their advice and shut the hell up. Stop asking any questions. Just accept it. Okay. Apparently the lunatic was posting on Truth Social like a madman again about these Democratic members of Congress who put out that video advising members of the military, reminding them that you have a legal obligation to refuse unlawful orders. And of course, Trump and MAGA exploded, calling that treason and sedition and whatever. Trump said they should be arrested and they're traitors and suggested they should be put to death. Well, he's back at it. Here's what he wrote. First one here is, the traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't, and it never will be. It was sedition at the highest level, and sedition is a major crime. There can be no other interpretation of what they said. Okay, and then he followed it up, I guess moments later. Many great legal scholars agree that the Democrat traitors that told the military to disobey my orders as president have committed a crime of serious proportion. Okay, well, if you believe that, moron, go ahead and arrest them. You've ordered the arrests of other people and the prosecutions of other people, and certainly Pam Bondi does whatever the hell you want. Maybe assign it to Lindsey Halligan, the moron you appointed to be U.S. Attorney in Virginia. Just order it. Get it done. Arrest these people. You're going to have a very difficult time proving any crime when the only evidence that you have is words that people said. Words, very difficult to make words the basis of a crime. Okay, that's number one. But number two, it's laughable. It's literally fucking laughable. There's clearly no crime here, obviously. First of all, what they said is 100% true. All they did is say, you are required by law and the oath you swore to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You are required by your oath, by the Constitution, and by the law to refuse unlawful orders. That is true. That is the law. That has always been the case. In fact, if members of the military do not refuse unlawful orders and they commit crimes in following those orders, they can be prosecuted for it. They're not immune. There's no defense to say, well, I was just following orders. No, tough shit. You followed an unlawful order that you should have refused. You committed a crime, and now you could be prosecuted. So these Democrats who put out this video, everything they said was 100% true. So obviously there's no crime here. It's ridiculous. But I would say, go ahead. Seriously, arrest them. Because let me tell you what it would do. First, it would further prove everything that we've been saying about you, that you are an authoritarian fascist dictator. So go ahead, further make our point. Arrest Democrats in Congress. You go ahead and do it. But then too, the other thing that would happen is those indictments, unless I guess maybe he says, you know what, I'm going to wipe away the Constitution completely and I'm not even going to charge them with a crime. I'm just going to have them arrested and we'll send them to Guantanamo Bay and we'll have a military tribunal and we'll hang them. I guess maybe he could do that. But assuming he doesn't do that, assuming he's talking about, because he's talking here about arresting them, let's assume he arrests them and charges them with treason, okay? Let's say Lindsey Halligan does it. What would happen then legally with those cases? They would be immediately dismissed. What happens is you'd get, assuming that you got a grand jury to indict these people, you get an indictment, and that entire grand jury process leading up to the indictment is entirely controlled by the prosecutors. So entirely controlled by Trump and his minions. Once an indictment is returned, that gets filed with the court. Now the judge is in control. Okay? Person gets arraigned and all that. The judge reviews the indictment. And what will happen is the judge will, when you have an indictment, it basically lays out what the law is, what section of the federal statute you are saying was violated, You can't just say they committed treason. No, you have to cite the specific statute, which has very specific language, has very specific elements. Each element must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt by facts. So you have the law, and then you have the facts that you allege prove that this person committed the crime. So what the judge would do is take a look at that, take a look at what the law is, and take a look at what the alleged facts are. And they would say, the judge would look and say, you know what? Even if they prove that these facts are true, it still doesn't prove a crime. It would never even get to a jury, because the only facts they have is, they'd say, here's the law, they committed treason, and they committed treason by saying this in this video. So that's it. That's the only facts that they can point to say that they committed a crime were the things that they said in that video. So the judge would look at it and go, okay, well, even if you prove that they actually said that, that's not a fucking crime, you moron. So there's nothing to put in front of a jury. Juries determine questions of fact and apply them to the law. If the indictment alleges facts that, if true, if a jury were to find them true, would constitute a crime. Well, there are no facts that they could allege that would constitute a crime. So that indictment would never be allowed to go to a jury. The judge would immediately dismiss it and probably reprimand the lawyers in some way. They should probably be referred to their respective bars for disciplinary action and disbarment. But that's what would happen. So the cases would be immediately dismissed, and you would prove the point that you are a fascist, criminal, piece of shit dictator. So I say, Donald Trump, go right ahead. Go right ahead and charge these people with treason. Let's see how that helps you, because you're very desperate right now. I reported on this poll from last week, a couple days ago. Only 35% of the American people support this criminal piece of shit. This is a poll from the American Research Group. They do a monthly poll, and just like every other major poll, their monthly poll, month over month, he is losing support. So he's down to 35%. 62% disapprove of the way he's doing his job. 64% disapprove of the way he is handling the economy. We have other similar polls. We had a Marist poll that had him in the 30s, a Reuters Ipsos poll that had him in the 30s. NBC has him in the 30s. NBC had Trump, I forget because this poll came out a couple weeks ago. They did the generic ballot, and Trump was, Republicans were losing to Democrats substantially. I don't remember. I don't want to quote you a wrong number. It was substantial. And then Marist also this past week did the same thing, had a generic congressional ballot question. If the election were held today for Congress, would you vote for the Republican or the Democratic candidate? And when that question is asked, Democrats are leading Republicans by 14 points. 14 friggin' points. On top of that, Trump has just lost nearly all his support with independents. He's lost, CNN had a segment on this the other day. Trump lost 40 points, dropped 40 points with independents since January. In January, they were about even. Now Trump is minus 43 with independents. So, you desperate fucking buffoon, I know you're very desperate to turn around your poll numbers. That's why you're out there desperately trying to do everything you can think of to make people like you, including literally promising to give them money. $2,000, what do you call them? $2,000 tariff surplus checks, as if there's a tariff surplus. Because what he wants people to believe is that we're making so damn much money with the tariffs that we not only have eliminated, we have no deficit anymore. We have a budget surplus. And so he's going to return some of that money to the people now. No such thing. He's promising to just literally pay people to make them like him. I'm still waiting for my Doge check, by the way. Did you guys get your Doge check? Because we were supposed to get Doge refund checks. Remember? Elon Musk and Trump were both promising this, that they saved so damn much money with all those Doge cuts that they were going to return that to all of us. We were gonna get some checks, baby. And then the amount varied. It was all over the place. It was 2,000. I heard 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. I even heard as much as 8,000 at one point. But I haven't seen a penny of that. I hope I'm not the only one, because how do you go about getting that money? It's almost tax time in January, and if it's a fuck up, is that taxable, by the way? Because I hope I'm not getting taxed on that, because I didn't even get it. And how do I demand my money? Let me know. Drop a comment. Tell me if you got your Doge refund checks, because I feel like maybe I'm getting screwed here. Okay, what else do we have? Ukraine, Trump, Agent Krasnov. I'm not going to go too much into this because I already cut a video on this on my main channel, but it's so friggin' important. Trump came out with another peace plan to end the war in Ukraine. And it was typical of Trump proposals in that it gave Russia everything they wanted at the expense of Ukraine. Ukraine gets nothing, Russia gets everything, Ukraine gets fucked. That's all you need to know. It's not going to get implemented. Ukraine's going to tell Trump to go fuck himself. They can't accept this deal. So the specifics don't freaking matter. But that's essentially what it was. And now we learn that Donald Trump was literally given that plan by Putin. The Russians wrote Trump's peace proposal. Russia wrote it. Marco Rubio admitted this to a group of bipartisan senators behind closed doors. Russia wrote the plan, but it's a good plan. We should totally do it. Oh my! How does Marco Rubio, who once was a normal establishment Republican at one point, and now look at him. What a pathetic. He was one of those people in 2015 when he ran against Trump. Remember little Marco? Trump just destroyed him, just mocked him. That's what he does. And now Marco Rubio, he was warning against Trump. Trump is going to destroy the Republican Party. He's not a conservative and all this stuff. And now, my God, he is the biggest Trump toady that there is. Everything that he said about Trump in 2015 and 2016 are absolutely true. But now Marco is, what a pathetic piece of shit that guy is. But Trump tells our European allies, because they hear this Trump proposal, and of course they don't like it, and they're like, this proposal is going to screw Ukraine. Is this really your final offer? Because Trump told Ukraine, of course, no threats to Russia, but he threatens Ukraine. If you don't accept this peace deal by Thanksgiving, then we're done with you. You're on your own. We're not going to give you any assistance. And by the way, I posted about this on social media earlier today, and someone said, "Oh, that's an empty threat because what assistance is he going to withhold? We're not giving them any assistance anyway." That's actually not true. We are giving them some still, specifically for this purpose. The assistance we are giving, we give them some intelligence assistance and other assistance, and we're allowing some of our assets to be delivered through our European allies, which we could shut down if we wanted to. But anyway, we are assisting Ukraine to a degree. The reason we are is specifically so it gives Donald Trump something to threaten them with. To say, if you don't do this, I'm going to withhold all future assistance from you. We're done. That's why we're giving assistance. So Trump can use it to blackmail Zelensky. If we weren't giving any assistance, then what card does Trump have to play? What threat can he level against Ukraine? He'd have nothing. So he needs something that he can threaten to withhold from them. I mean, I suppose he could throw sanctions on Ukraine and all that, but that wouldn't go over too well with our European allies. But so anyway, moving on. Did you hear this, that Elon Musk on Twitter rolled out a new function where you can go to an account and click on whatever to find more information about the account? Tells you like how many times they've changed their account name, some other stuff. But the important thing that it tells you is where the account is, what country the account is from, which has blown up in their face because just as we figured, a lot of these big name MAGA accounts are actually foreign propaganda operations. And a number of these accounts have been exposed. I saw a couple of accounts with, followers well into the millions. And all they do is they push pro-Trump propaganda and other kind of right-wing talking point bullshit propaganda. And so, yeah, there's that. What else I have for you? Oh, there we go. This is a good one. By the way, I need to remind you, I do get a lot of questions about the mug. My buddy here. You see my other friend here, by the way? Can you tell what that is? I'll leave you guessing if you can't see. What do you think it is? Drop a comment. Anyway, my little blue buddy here, fuck Trump on the mug. I have this and other mugs available at the Romano Report shop. There is a link. Do I have a link on this account? I have it linked on my main account. I will add it to the links when you go to my page, and there'll be links, on my profile. I'll make sure there's a link there to the Romano Report shop. By the way, this mug comes in. I didn't know this was going to turn into an advertisement, but bear with me. It comes in 2 different sizes, so make sure you select the right size. This is the larger one. I don't like the little standard coffee mugs. I like them a little bit bigger, so this is the bigger one. Make sure you select the one that you want. Anyway, I do not make the mugs. It's a third party. I make the designs and create an account and upload my designs, and it's a company that processes and fulfills the orders. So there shouldn't be any problems. I haven't heard of any problems. I've heard a lot of feedback that people like the mugs. I will tell you, it's good quality. The printing is really good. So anyway, that's it. Enough of the... But Christmas is coming, so you want to get on that. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, I almost brushed over the story I just pulled up here. Let me show you this. This is originally appeared in the Washington Post. White House blew past legal concerns in deadly strikes on drug boats. Looking at the time, I got to wrap this up, but I will probably talk more about this on the main channel. By the way, I do have 3 channels. If you don't subscribe to all 3, you're missing some content, so please do. There are good reasons why I have 3 accounts, by the way. Not going to get into it again here, but just in case you have that question. Why do you have 3 accounts? What the fuck? There's good reason. Anyway, White House blew past legal concerns. So there should have been real legal questions. And in the past, there'd be a whole apparatus in a responsible White House that's trying to follow the law and the Constitution. There would be all kinds of levels of legal and different reviews of any proposal like this to start taking, lethal military action against civilian operated boats in the Caribbean that you claim are drug smugglers. Of course, we still don't have any proof that any of these people are drug smugglers like Trump says. Not that that would make it legal. I want to make clear here. Far too much of the commentary out there is, the extent they question it at all, they'll just say, well, Trump hasn't really given us any evidence that they're drug smugglers. And that's it. That's as far as they go. Leaving the impression that if they are in fact drug smugglers, that everything's cool, that it's legal. No! It doesn't matter. Even if they are drug smugglers, it's still fucking illegal. There's a legal way to deal with drug smugglers. And it's a way that we've been dealing with them for decades. You have the Coast Guard interdict them. Or you can have the Navy. If it's way the fuck out there, have the Navy interdict them. But, when they get close, you have the Coast Guard interdict them, arrest them, interrogate them, go after the rest of their associates. That's what you do, right? Drug smuggling is not a capital offense. It's not an act of war either. There's no congressional approval, and this is not in the immediate defense of the country, which requires lethal force. So there is no legal basis whatsoever. I've talked about this many times, and basically what the article says is they didn't even really do a review. They didn't care. They didn't care if it's legal or not. And you know why? Because the Supreme fucking Court. That's why. This is what the Supreme Court has allowed. War crimes, because that's what these are. The Supreme Court, by saying, hey, anything you do that's an official act while you're president, you're completely immune. You can never be prosecuted for it. And of course, giving orders as commander-in-chief is an official act of the president. If it would otherwise have been illegal because you don't have any authority to do it, and it's murder, it doesn't matter. Giving orders as president, as commander-in-chief, giving orders to the military, that is an official act, and so yeah, you're immune. If you're immune, if you commit any crimes in the process, don't worry about it. You can never be prosecuted. So Donald Trump, a literal convicted felon, a literal criminal who tried to overthrow the republic, he hears that. You mean no matter what I do, no matter what order I give as president, I can never be prosecuted for it? Okay then, what the fuck do I need a legal review for, Do you even know who the White House counsel is, by the way? In past administrations, you would know who the White House counsel is. I don't even know who the fuck the guy is. Assuming it's a guy, I don't know who it is. I think it's a guy. I think I heard his name once. I just don't know who it is. Never heard of him before. Can't even remember the name. That's never been the case. I've always been able to tell you who the White House counsel is. I have no idea. Because the White House counsel, what kind of job do they have? That's a cushy fucking job. If you can get a job like that, dude is probably just sitting in his office watching porn all day. What else does he have to do? Trump doesn't want any legal opinions about whether something's legal or not. He doesn't give a shit. So yeah, this is exactly the kind of unintended consequence, assuming it's unintended, that the Supreme Court has put into place now. Now, all future presidents, as long as this friggin' decision is on the books, and that needs to be overturned as soon as we can possibly do it. And, if I was going to say Congress, the only thing they can do, since the Supreme Court ruled that this is a constitutional requirement to give this kind of immunity to a president, I was going to say, because there's a lot of things they could do by statute to correct bad Supreme Court decisions, but this isn't one of them, because the Supreme Court is not saying that this is based on statute. They are saying that the Constitution compels that a president receive immunity from prosecution for anything he does as an official act. So they're saying that it's the Constitution as currently written that gives him this immunity. So the only thing that Congress could do is pass a constitutional amendment by 2/3 of each House of Congress, and then it would have to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. That's not terribly likely. Or we could, pack the court. We're going to have to do something with the court because the court's a real freaking problem. Talk about that more later. But this is what the court did. They have created an absolute potential disaster here by giving a president the permission and just literally telling him, yeah, anything you do, whatever crimes you commit, as long as you can, it's arguably an official act. And certainly any order he gives to the military is an official act of the president. So there's nothing he has to worry about. So yeah, of course, the White House blew past legal concerns. They don't give a shit about what the lawyers have to say about whether something is illegal or not. Finally, I'll wrap it up with this. I've already gone too long, and I got a shit ton of yard work to do. You know, it's November 23rd. We could get snow at any time. If we get a significant snow, it may last, and the ground may be covered with snow until April, and then I'm screwed because the spring is gonna be a big mess for me if I don't get a lot of this yard cleanup shit done. So I got a lot of work to do, which I don't want to do, which is maybe why I'm stalling here. Anyway, finally I'll leave you with this. This is from CNN. Judge halts Trump's deployment of National Guard in Washington, D.C. You might have heard this. President Donald Trump and the Defense Department illegally deployed the National Guard in Washington, a federal judge ruled Thursday. The administration exceeded the bounds of their authority in how they deployed National Guard troops in the city and acted contrary to the law when they deployed the D.C. National Guard for non-military crime deterrence missions in the absence of a request from the city's civil authorities. The judge, however, delayed her order that would require the National Guard to leave the district. You know, he started with Washington, D.C. because it's not a state, and he has a greater deal of authority over Washington, D.C. since it's a federal district. And there is a statute which allows him the authority to essentially commandeer the Washington Metropolitan Police Department, which he did. And he sent National Guard in there. But that still doesn't get him around federal law that prohibits the president from using the military for domestic law enforcement. That's still a thing, okay? The Posse Comitatus Act says, and it's been on the books for a very long time, says that the military cannot be used for domestic law enforcement. There are certain statutory exceptions to that. If famously in the Insurrection Act, if there is a literal insurrection against federal authority, you can use the military for that reason. Or you can use the military if federal authority is not, federal law enforcement is not sufficient to enforce federal law, because the president has no authority to enforce state law. But if in the enforcement of federal law, normal federal law enforcement is insufficient to the task, the president can order the military to assist federal law enforcement in that circumstance. The other one is if a state has some sort of situation that they need help from the federal government. They can request it. But only if they request it, okay? Can't go in there without against the state's wishes. Anyway, there's that. Anything else in here? They said, this is the reaction from the Trump regime. President Trump is well within his lawful authority to deploy the National Guard in Washington, D.C. to protect federal assets and assist law enforcement with that. Whatever, I don't give a fuck what they say. Okay, anyway, that's it. I gotta run. Not looking forward to this. I got a lot. Anyway, that's it for now. Check out the Romano Report shop. Get your Christmas shopping going. And check out my other channels if you haven't done so already. And that's it. I hope you are well. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Or if you're watching this on Monday, so sorry that it's Monday. But anyway, talk to you again soon.